And we are live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Those Aren't Biscuits. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadet, and with me, as always, is the ever, ever comforting Owen Adams. How are you?
The ever comforting.
Yeah, your comforting source.
Okay.
Yeah, a source of comfort.
Yeah.
For who, I don't know.
That's
It's not me, but it's for someone, I'm sure.
Okay. I can get behind that. Sure. What would you like
I don't think
comforting?
they.
What would you like
I don't
comforting on
think. I don't
today,
think they
John?
know that you're comforting them either. You just kind of show up behind them.
And that my soothing presence comforts them.
Well, I think the intention is there. Is to follow through. The follow through needs some work.
Okay. And what am I comforting them from? The discomfort of me being slightly too close.
Yeah, oh, that'd be great. Like, don't worry, I'll comfort you. I'll leave.
Yeah. Okay, I can get behind that.
How you doing lately?
Oh yeah, not bad. I'm just trying to process this weird intro you give me today.
Oh, this is the one that needs processing.
Yeah. I feel like I should be offended, but I don't know.
Hey, I won't stop you from feeling whatever you want to feel.
I've been promised that before.
Is that the comfort you're talking about?
Never again. No, I'm pretty good. How are you, John? I just watched another episode of The Fist of Iron, season 2. I'm 3 episodes in now. It's pretty much the same as season 1. It's enjoyable. It's good.
It's better.
Yeah, that's about the same. I don't really notice any difference. It's pretty much the same.
Oh, yeah, because you're kind of not really good at this watching TV thing.
I'm enjoying it. I just watched an episode containing the most awkward dinner scene in TV history.
That's a great episode, though.
Really good, really well written. It's what I think they've done good with so far. I'm only 3 episodes in, but what I think they've really done well with is picking up from Iron Fist season 1, so that if you like it, it still feels like the same show, but still fixing the problems. You know, It's not like Thor Ragnarok, where they're just like, okay, how can we cut ties with everything that came before and still make a movie with the same cast? It's alright, we want to find a way where we're still following up with these characters. Everything that happened in Iron Fist season 1 happened and is important and is relevant to it, but we also, have more consistency and more...
Yeah, well, and then the nice thing about those first early episodes is they don't want to set up this immediate antagonism, right? It's more or less just
right.
Everyone's kind of in it together, but they just have different views on things.
Yes.
And that's what makes it awkward, but they're not outwardly villainous towards each other.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that works about this season so far is it feels like already we are moving forward in a direction, even though it's a slow burn so far. Like all the Netflix Marvel shows are slow burns, I would say. They take their time. It always feels like it's going somewhere. It always feels like it's going somewhere with purpose, which I think Iron Fist season 1 gets wrong every time Harold Meacham's not very involved. He feels like the main plot, but so often he isn't. But he feels like he is. So whenever he's not on, you wonder what's going on. You know what I mean?
And that's kind of a problem because I think the Harold Meacham stuff kind of sucks.
I think it's the highlight of. I don't like the hand stuff.
It might be the highlight, but it's still kind of terrible to me.
I like him as a villain. And it's partly because actually that taps into one of the things that in horror films I find quite scary. You know how everybody's got their horror bugbears, their things that actually tweak them? People who... Things coming back from the dead wrong is one of my things. Do you know what I mean? Right. You ever seen Pet Sematary? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things that come back wrong, I don't like it. So I actually find that really, really creepy. You know that whole scene where he's got the ice cream, and he's trying to get his assistant to try the flavors of ice cream, and you know that, like, okay, Harold Meacham was obviously a dick when he was alive, you know, but he wouldn't have got
Right.
homicidally insane over someone not wanting to try a flavor of ice cream. The fact that he comes back more and more and more unhinged is really unsettling to me. So I like that plot. It's actually the martial arts stuff I don't really care for. But I actually think that's really done well in this season so far. And the gang stuff is done more well. But I'm not far enough into it yet to judge.
Mhm.
But I
Right, right.
I like season 1. I'm one of the people who likes season 1 of Iron Fist. And so I was
You're
actually
weird.
worried. I was a little worried that season 2
Would be good.
would be, well, all right. To be serious for a moment, so I can actually make my point. I was worried that.
Oh!
No, come on. I do actually want to say this. I was worried that it would be in an attempt to fix what were a lot of problems with Iron Fist, which, when I'm being serious, yes, I can admit there are problems there. In an attempt to fix the problems, they would still end up killing what I liked about it, and that so far hasn't been the case. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I actually think Colleen is excellent this year. I mean, she was good last year, but she's excellent this year so far.
So, yeah, I would agree. She also is a highlight for this season, I would say. Not to spoil anything, but she has a great arc through this season.
The only thing I don't like is there's a woman in this show. Hold on.
Oh wow! Just gonna end it there.
No, it's alright. It's just to get your audio on the stream, I have to play my laptop's audio through OBS, and I just opened up the stream in another window, and I was just doubling up the audio. No. So there's a character in the show. She's in the first 3 episodes. I don't know what her plot's gonna be, but she basically seems to be like I don't know. I'm only episode 3, but she's like a split personality private detective, and she looks eerily like Trish from Jessica Jones when she's wearing the Patsy wig, and it's really annoying.
Funny thing about that, actually, so she mentions like where she's from in the first episode. Did you catch that at all?
No.
Well, she goes, "Oh, sorry, I'm new in town. I'm from Oak Creek, Wisconsin."
Right.
I lived there. I lived in that town. That's a real town.
But the character's name, as they introduce it, a professional name is Walker, and Trish's name is Trish Walker.
Right.
It's irritating, and if it doesn't turn out to be intentional, it's gonna piss me off.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna let that go.
But yes, she looks like Trish when she's in the Patsy wig. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think there's some of that there. I had theories about it, but then I
watched it.
Yeah. Well, no, I can't really say anything more.
Okay. So I don't know where they're going with that. It looks like they're playing up a split personality thing, but it's not too late for them for that to be a red herring, you know? So we'll see. I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah, I'm liking Iron Fist season 2 so far. Tiny Bit Secret says, unsure about this week's title. And then Owen is a pot, and I don't know what that is referring to.
As in the pot calling the kettle black.
Oh, excuse me.
Because you know how you desperately want to get out a point, I just
wanted to say that I'm actually
and
colorblind.
You're getting a little annoyed with me talking over you.
I don't see skin color, so
That's great. Your pots are made out of skin.
Well, yeah. There is a reason I spent all that time in an institution, Jonathan.
I thought you were just cleaning the floors.
There's a reason they call me Yorkshire's Ed Gein. And there's a reason this is the first time I'm telling you this. Don't look outside your window.
Time Best Secret says, so, for you, John, is Iron Fist even more confusing for you? No, not really.
I don't actually know what that means.
Me neither. But, no, it's...
Maybe she's just calling you an idiot.
It's possible.
Like, so is it more confusing for you, you know? Because you're a little slow?
Is it confusing for you since the second season was good and you were really expecting it not to be, like the first season?
No, I'm liking it so far.
No, it's good.
That's my.
Did you hear the news though about Iron Fist?
They canceled it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have said he's still going to be like a feature in the show. And
I figured.
That's a good way of doing it. I'm willing to bet it wouldn't have been cancelled if Punisher hadn't done well. Because they still have 4 with Punisher. Do you know what I mean? They always wanted 4.
Well,
yeah, you want to take that one, John?
No, actually, now I'm just convinced that it's real. Like Iron Fist is real, and the Defenders are real. And
Tiny Biscuits is because the town is a real place where you've lived, so it exists in your universe.
Yeah,
I just imagine your little face as that happened. The town where you lived. It was like Santa hearing the clip clop on the roof at night on Christmas Eve. You know.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Owen. My life's a little bit more interesting than that. So.
Oh, we know it's.
So when I. Whatever you say. No, actually, when it happened, I'm like, huh. That's gonna be kind of a fun thing to say on the show, and I just moved on. But it's
your little brain completely unaware of how it would actually play out.
Say what?
Your little brain completely unaware of how it would actually play out. Whoa, he's still
my little brain.
Oh, this is in your little boy brain. It's a nice.
We're gonna start this already, huh? This week.
All right, I'll be good.
Get ready.
I'll be good for the rest of the episode. Yeah, no, you tell me. We'll talk about it properly when I've finished. I'm trying to get it finished by the next show so we can do Daredevil as well afterwards. But yeah, say whatever you want to say. I'll not talk over you.
No, I can't really. I really can't, honestly.
Well, that's okay. Like, we'll finish it by next week, so I'm sure.
Well, I mean, like, it's not a big. Okay, I'm worried about spoilers, but it's not really big. They mention again later in the season, like where she's from or like where she's come from, and they get the town wrong. It's like a weird continuity problem. They say the wrong name of a town. It's still a real town that exists, but it's not the same one. So
maybe it's deliberate. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, like it's in such a context where it's not necessarily saying where she's from, but
maybe
the town they mention is in.
Maybe if we had a season,
the town
3,
they mention is in such close proximity,
right,
to Oak Creek that it's like, why would you bring up this other town unless you forgot that you had originally said Oak Creek?
Yeah, I guess. Maybe in season 3 they were going to do like the Duncan MacLeod. Where do I come from?
Where do I go?
Niger. But no, I'm liking it. That's what I've been doing this week. And what else have I been watching? And I've started watching the new season of Better Call Saul, but you don't watch that, so there's not much I can say about that. It's good. It's enjoyable. And stuff. How about you? What have you been up to?
Well, okay. So for weeks now, perhaps even months, Owen has been ranting and raving and telling me I need to watch The Good Place. All right. So yesterday I sat down, turned on the TV. I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm going to watch a few episodes, get ready for the show, have something to talk about. It'd be great.
I'm waiting for the twist.
Throw on Hulu. And like, all right, here we go. I'm going to watch Good Place. And before I knew it, I'm watching WWE Raw.
You should always cook your WWE before you watch it. It's hygienic.
Yeah. Well, it's more of a delicacy raw, you know.
That's how they eat it on the continent.
Right. That's a term we don't use over here because.
No, but it's definitely one we say here when we're talking about Europe.
Well, pretty soon you can be able to say, "Oh, that's how they eat it over in the Union."
Yeah. We can't afford it.
or that's how we eat it too, but it's out of necessity.
That's stuck in customs.
But yeah, like it was one of those things where I turn on Hulu and I'm flipping through to find programs and everything, and it just popped up as like one of those, one of our featured shows this week, right? And well, I mean, you don't know because you don't have Hulu, but it's like all other streaming services, where they have like, your picks, like continue watching what you were watching before, and then like featured shows. And it was WWE Monday Night Raw. I was like, which is a long running program. Like it's been going on since like 1991.
Right.
And I'm like, really? Like they have wrestling on Hulu? Like wrestling still is a thing? And I think it's funny is I know wrestling is still a thing because oddly enough, a lot of the like video game outlets that I like Giant Bomb, Funhouse, Achievement Hunter, stuff like that, they all kind of loosely are fans of wrestling, so you'll hear them mention it from time to time.
Well, it could just be me, but I feel like there are more fans of wrestling now than when I was in school. People who genuinely, unabashedly enjoy it. It's having a non-ironic revival.
And so I'm like, well, what the hell is all this about, right? I shifted gears immediately. As soon as I saw that, like I had gone in intending to watch The Good Place, right?
You can say this, but I know exactly what happened. You were like, as soon as I tell Owen I sat down to watch The Good Place, he'll be raring to get talking about it. He'll be all excited. And I could see a spot here to let him down by watching something I know he knows nothing about.
like Owen's over there and he's all giddy in his seat. He's kind of tapping his shoulder, holding back the urine just a little bit.
I am.
Just like
exactly. I'm not. I stopped holding back
the urine.
I stopped holding back the urine the minute you said The Good Place.
Now I'm just cold, wet, and disappointed.
Exactly. It's a typical Monday night for me. And then I could just see your face like the Grinch, when the grin comes up. His ears curl out at the top, And you sat there not enjoying your wrestling, but enjoying the bitter prediction of my misery. That's what it is, isn't it?
And John's heart was 3 sizes too small.
No idea how satisfied you would be if you'd watched The Good Place. We've hyped it up too much now. You'll probably hate it.
Right.
We've got a few comments, and then you can tell me about WWE Raw.
Sure.
Tiny Biscuits says, "Yay, John watched it." And then, "That's not the show." What? Okay, so shows that take over small towns claiming to be another town get weird for the notoriety, even making businesses change their signage if they include the name of the town. Fair enough. Ox says, "My grandparents used to live near Roslyn, and it was the location for a TV show. They had a large painted mural on the side of a brick building. They paint it to Roslyn's Diner." Oh, what was the TV show, if you remember? The town I grew up in was the town hall for a TV show called Heartbeat, which was it was a TV show about police in the 1960s, and it's really funny because it's been 1950s. Sorry, it's really funny because it ran for more than 10 years, but was still set in the 1950s. And the town hall in the town I grew up in was an old town hall that had been around since then and had been cleaned, so it was the town hall. And my friend's dad loved the TV show Heartbeat and wanted to be in it when he found out they were filming. and drove up and asked if he could be in it, and they said no because it's set in the 1950s. So he went home and got his classic car that he never ever took out of his garage, and drove back. And if you watch that episode, that season, because they do all the shooting of the town hall in one filming block, just every time, every episode that season, a little car just drives in. He's in it like 20 times that season of the show, which is just fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, Karen,
the
tell
thing
me.
Is, like, I have a. Okay, Northern Exposure. Yeah, I know that show.
I vaguely remember that show. The title. I don't think I've ever seen it.
So the weird thing is, like they made them paint the mural. Like I have a hard. I guess I have a hard time like wrapping my head around like a
like
TV
the Hollywood
production company.
The Hollywood military police.
Like, we own this town now. Like,
Christmas will be ours.
I get the feeling that there was some payment involved. Like,
they made him do it. They took hostages.
Yeah, had the diner's owner on his knees.
We're gonna execute one small town local an hour until that mural is done.
We'll paint over the mural with the blood of your townspeople.
Og says, yes, they had to. They had to.
That's strange. That's very strange to me. I mean, I'm not disputing, you're claiming like, but man, that seems really weird to me.
They literally took over the town for weeks at a time. Fair enough.
That show wasn't even all that popular. Like, that's
you gotta film it somewhere, though.
Yeah, but like...
That's the worst thing, isn't it? When you let someone take over your town for weeks at a time, and then when the TV show comes on, it's shit. And nobody likes it.
Well, it's like, New York. Like, there's probably like 100 things being filmed in New York City at, like, any given time. And it's not like they just shut down New York City for it. Like, they block off a street at a time, they film their scenes, and then they move on. Like...
Well, I was reading this thing that apparently, if you don't live in New York, you think of New York as being a city of all, like, dark alleys, because that's how they show it on TV.
There's just one.
But it doesn't have that many alleys. And so whatever location people want to film there, the location scouts are like, New York doesn't really have these. Chicago has lots, why not film it in Chicago? But they're like, no, we have to get the authentic New York experience, even though there are none of these in New York. So yeah, there's every time you see the classic New York alley, it's usually the same alley, which I think is funny.
Hello, Sinister Mister, welcome.
So tell me about Raw.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna watch this, all right? And the funny thing is, like, I used to watch wrestling when I was younger. Probably I would say fourth grade to sixth grade. I probably watched it. Not super regularly, but I was familiar enough with it.
See, I've never watched wrestling. I've never been able to get myself in that mindset, you know?
Or guys says, I'm amazed they got that one scene with empty streets in New York for the Devil's Advocate. Was that Devil's Advocate? I remember Vanilla Sky having that really famous...
The devil has powers, you see, so he can... Al Pacino waved his magic hands around and performed an incantation. I'm trying to remember a scene with the empty streets in that film. I don't remember... There was a lot of stuff filmed in New York for that movie, but I don't remember an empty streets scene.
Yeah, me neither. Like I said, whenever I think of empty streets in New York, that's the first thing that comes to mind, though, is Vanilla Sky.
See, I've never
with
seen
Tom
that
Cruise.
One, so.
Yeah.
I'm of no value.
There's a really... Yeah, there's like a scene where they actually emptied out all of Times Square, which was very impressive.
Right, because it's always crowded, right? There's no time of day you can go through there, and it's just quiet anyway.
Yeah, and like they had like all the billboards turned off and everything too.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Yeah. But so I sat down to watch wrestling, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to have any idea what's going on. I'm not going to know any of these wrestlers anymore, any of their plot lines, nothing, right? The first thing that happens, the show comes on, and two wrestlers, one's name is Triple H or Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Right.
And Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, comes strolling onto the. I'm like, wait, really? These two are still wrestling? I'm like, oh, I know these guys back from when they were in this group called like D-Generation X. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I remember those guys. Like, interesting. And then they do this whole spiel in the stage where they're talking about how they were betrayed by the Brothers of Destruction and da 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 da. You know, there's supposed to be respect and everything. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess the new up and comers, you know, beat up the old guys. You know, that's a wrestling thing. And then they showed clips from like the last pay-per-view event when the Brothers of Destruction beat up these two guys, and it's fucking Undertaker and Kane. I'm like, wait, these two are still wrestling
do they have Zimmer frames?
I'm about to say, I'm like, how old are these people?
When I was a kid, someone gave me a wrestling book. This was my only introduction to wrestling. It was like an annual, like a hardback. But you don't have annuals there, right? They're like hardback books that you get kids at Christmas, basically. And they'll have like facts and stories and comics and things like that in. And I had a wrestling one, and I must have been about 5 years old, and the Undertaker was in that. So,
yeah,
he's been around a while,
right? And they look old. Like these guys haven't like. It's not like they've aged particularly well. Like, I mean, decades upon decades of them.
It's another case that they went down to the pound and got an Undertaker that looked just the same and swapped him out at some point.
Well, they actually did that with Kane, right? So
he wears a mask, doesn't he? So you can do that.
Sort of, right? But the problem is that his mask still reveals like his mouth.
Why is Kane a woman now, and why is Kane black and clearly a completely different person? No, it is the same Kane.
Well, it's funny because the original guy who was Kane, he's now a politician. Like, he's a mayor of his city, of the town he lives in.
How much does that come up in his political campaigning, do you reckon?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Oh, yeah, go ahead, right in the front row. Yeah, in the 1996 match against Stone Cold Steve Austin, when it seemed like he had you against the ropes and was about to perform the Stone Cold Stunner, but you managed to escape and use a choke slam on him, what was that like? Please leave. Please leave. We're discussing the building of a veterans memorial here.
So this minute says, I'll get another Undertaker at the pet shop. Damn right.
So I'm like, okay. So right off the bat, I have 4 guys who I actually know who they are. They look decrepit as hell. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's something. And all of a sudden it's like the big reveal at the end of this whole promo thing was Triple H and Shawn Michaels are reforming D-Generation X. I'm like, fucking really? Like, I picked today to watch wrestling after
you were apparently
15,
you were apparently watching
20 years.
The Force Awakens of wrestling, of episodes of Raw.
I was just like, huh, okay, well, that's something. And so I decided to, like, you know what? I'm gonna stick it out. I'm gonna watch
you know I
the
hate
rest.
You, right? You could have been watching The Good Place. You could have been watching The Good Place, and it's lovely. And you're doing this to me.
So I decided to sit through and watch the rest.
Why do you hate me?
Oh, there's like 200 episodes explaining all the reasons why I could hate you. All our viewers have to do is go back and look. But like they reference like old 90s like wrestlers like every 5 minutes watching this show. I'm like wow, like this is what we got to. And here's the thing, like I don't actually like blame them or anything because like wrestling is still, I guess, popular. Like there was, they showed shots of the crowd and the whole place was packed and it was a big arena and there was a lot of spectacle and everything. And for what it is, it's like, okay, I get it. Like I get why people would find this entertaining. It's really really not all that different from watching Daredevil punch someone, right? It's just two dudes and sometimes two ladies beating the crap out of each other. Fun, whatever. Like,
yeah, gee whiz.
But they, yeah, it's like they wrap it in like the soap opera, drama stuff, and I'm like, oh wow, this stuff feels really really bad. But I'm like, well, at the same time, like these poor writers, right, have to, like the show's been on the air for like 25 years, and these guys have to try to work out 90 minutes of entertainment every once a week, to be performed live, where whatever situation they have found themselves in has to be able to be settled with a wrestling match, right?
Yeah, it was
like
this is perfectly normal.
There's no storyline that can end like, oh, we've reached an agreement, then we decided not to hurt each other. Like they always have to like wrestle.
Yeah, that is the premise of the show.
Right. And I'm like, so it's, I guess to me, it's like, I kind of get it why it's so hokey and cheesy, like after so long, like, what are you going to do? Like, just what are you going to
do? Like, we're a big enough franchise where people are still watching. What are you going to do? It sounds like a threat. What are you going to, what, are you going to make us write good plots?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, what plots are left? Like, what permeation of this person doesn't like this person for X reason? SummerSlam, This is like.
Do you think some of that has to do with their audience too? Like, if their audience is primarily nostalgia based at this point, like how much of that is just about keeping like comics, like
right,
when they did those DC Rebirth issues, I remember the Aquaman one. The whole issue has nothing to do with, like, Black Manta, right? But there he was at the end anyway, just to be like, do you remember him?
Yeah.
He's here. You know him. Do you think wrestling's kind of at that stage?
Well, it's I don't think it was ever not at that stage, honestly. Like
that makes sense.
Because, like, I'm thinking back to, like, when I watched it. Like I said, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, right? That's still like later than like the Hulk Hogan Macho Man years.
Right. That's still all anybody talked about.
Right. And it was still kind of a big deal whenever like one of those guys showed up. Like if if Hulk Hogan showed up for an event, and it was like, oh my God, Hogan's here. Bah! And so it's like, it's kind of like never moved on from that, where they still kind of rely on, and yeah, it is very much like comic books where there's like stunt casting, right? Where it's, like, oh, a mystery person has revealed themselves, and it's like, oh shit, it's the person from,
right.
It's Eddie Brock, whatever.
Was Wolverine on the cover of the episode you watched? That's my personal memory of stunt casting. It was around about, 2001? You couldn't walk into a comic shop without seeing a book without Wolverine on the front.
Right.
He sold a lot of books.
Yeah, sure did.
I mean, even the X-Men, do you remember the first poster for the X-Men movie was just, like, Wolverine's hands with the claws crossed in an X shape?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. And, like, the rest of them were kind of, like, in the background going, hey, what's going on over there?
Yeah, making a movie, Wolverine?
Can we be in it?
And then, you know, you watch the movie and they kind of aren't.
Right.
So, did you enjoy it on any level? Was it more of a nostalgia trip?
I kind of enjoyed it, like not in a like a serious enjoyment kind of way. It's one of those like, oh, this is something, and it was really interesting, like to see, like, so I think like even they have given up the ghost when it comes to, like, is this real or not?
Right.
I mean, that used to be kind of a big thing, right? Where when I was a kid, where it was always like, wrestling's fake, no, and but like when you watched the show, there was no possible way that it was fake. You know, the way they presented it, there was like, oh, this is real stuff. These people really hate each other. They really want to fight each other, and they're really getting hurt.
Right.
Right.
We all knew it wasn't true, but
right. But you know, in their world, it was all real.
Right.
Right. I don't know. They kind of given that up because, like, okay, there's still legit, like, oh yeah, I hate this person and I'm gonna beat him up, and oh my god, they backstabbed. The Bella twins just backstabbed Ronda Rousey, and they're going to town on her, and they're beating the crap out of her, and blah blah blah. But then they have like these moments of like, oh yeah, and he had one of the longest careers in WWE history. His stage presence and his ability to go from kayfabe to babyface back to heel is, and it's like all these like super technical terms,
right, that
I only know about because of like Giant Bomb, you know, and I'm like, wait, they're straight up calling out these like showbiz terms, which breaks the illusion.
I guess maybe they've just come around to the idea that everybody knows. Like, you say, like, it used to be the thing of, oh, is wrestling real or not? But like, when I was in school, the only people who were on the side of like the it was real were the kids who, you know, no offense, were kind of dumb. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
The ones who didn't really get stuff like that.
I think what it is now, I think it is kind of trying to appeal to both kids and grown up adults who were fans of wrestling.
I suppose those little adults.
I was gonna say grown up fans of wrestling, right. But because like okay, as a kid, I knew that wrestling was fake, right? I knew it, but while watching it, you can get caught up in the moment, right?
Right. Where it's Max Landis has a short film about wrestling where he says the most important thing to understand about wrestling is that it's a TV show about a wrestling show.
Right.
Which is the first time someone explained it in a way where I got it, even though I don't want to watch it.
I mean, it's like it's a play. It's a play. It's live action theater.
Yeah.
Just and the plot line is we're gonna wrestle.
Right.
And so, like, in the same way that I would go see a play, a live, you know, theater performance, and get caught up in it, the same thing would happen as a kid, right?
Yeah, but it does
I'm older now, though, I do have when I sat down and watched it, I'm like, okay, I'm not getting wrapped up into this. Like, I can't break from the reality that these are just fucking performers.
Right. And
like,
I
can't do it.
That is, I think, how adults engage with it, which I have to say does make the opening to Highlander, the first movie, very strange for me.
Okay.
Because that movie opens with immortal Connor McLeod going to watch a wrestling match at Madison Square Gardens. And he's just watching it for no particular reason. You remember that?
Oh, right.
And then he has a flashback back to war where he dies. And then he leaves the car park and he gets arrested. He's like, maybe he was disappointed by the low-quality wrestling that night and cut off his own head. But I'm like, but what was Connor McLeod doing there? Is that what he's into? Is that... Nothing else in the movie screams guy who would pay to go watch the wrestling. And if you watch that movie, he's having a terrible time. Like, he's not enjoying it at all.
Oh, just real quick sidetrack. Org has sent us a picture of what the mural used to be. Oh,
where is this? I don't have that link. Is that in my chat? Because I don't see that.
It was in Twitter.
Oh, Twitter. Okay, hold on. I'll take a look.
But
yeah,
I don't
why
know.
Why did Conor McLeod go see the wrestling?
Same reason that Captain Clark is climbing a mountain.
Conor McLeod is watching the wrestling. Why is he watching the wrestling?
To hug the wrestling, to envelop that wrestling. No, it was a strange experience watching this, and so much so because then as I'm watching this, I realize I'm only getting half of the story as I'm watching this because they all they're referring to is Raw, like not WWE.
Raw.
Specifically as Raw, and I'm like, why are they so focused on this one show? They have other shows. I know they do. Like there's like SmackDown, like there's WWE SmackDown, but that's just these guys on Thursday, or right. So I thought. So I looked it up, all right, and they have done this thing, right, and this one blows my mind, right, because I can't for the life of me, and now I'm reading articles that have nothing to do with the production of wrestling. Okay, these are outside sources, and I'm reading them, and so WWE owns both WWE Raw and WWE SmackDown, right? These are two shows that WWE puts on, but they're now treating them as if they themselves are their own franchises. So wrestlers who come up, these performers who come up, literally get signed to one or the other, and they act as separate organizations from each other.
As you do, for no reason,
and they're oddly antagonistic with each other
for the sole purpose of appealing to that kind of geek market that likes to categorize things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's the mentality they're going for, right? They want to. Well, it's because there's no other serious company making professional wrestling, really. Companies have come and gone, but there is no real competitor in that space, right? So if that's your position and you've got a monopoly, how do you get the football team kind of thing going? Do you know what I mean?
Right. It's just,
how do you get that kind of rivalry weird. Otherwise? Yeah, it's pretty strange. So do no SmackDown wrestlers appear in Raw, like in cross?
Right, exactly. That's what it is. No, the people who are on Raw do not go and they aren't on SmackDown.
Okay. Do they ever have like special crossovers?
Yes, apparently they do. And it becomes like it's a big thing. It's like the Miz or whatever is invading Raw, and it's just.
It's what?
Sorry.
You okay?
What are you saying?
Sorry, is everything okay there, John?
No, it's good. I distracted myself.
Good. We shouldn't have done that stream earlier, should we? I think you're all talked out.
But no, it's like a wrestler coming from SmackDown and then showing up on Raw is like a deal. It's like a big thing, right? It's like
it's like the Spider-Man Homecoming deal.
Right. It's like, oh, Tom Hardy's appearing in Venom? Or is he?
Well, Tom Hardy was in Venom. Tom Holland turned out not to be. You okay there, John? Have we lost you?
No, I'm here. Sorry, I got a message that I was reading.
I'd like to imagine something deadly serious is going on in your personal life, but you're so committed to the show. Like you're at a very sad family funeral. Midway. Sorry, I was going to deliver a eulogy.
I'm talking about wrestling. They're dead already. They're not going anywhere. Hold your horses. No, it was a weird thing. Like, and so the funny thing is, like, now that I knew that I had to have the whole story, I went and watched an episode of SmackDown too. So
I'm ashamed of you.
Out,
more so than normal.
Well, what started out is me with all the intentions of the world to sit down and watch The Good Place. I ended up watching like 180 minutes worth of wrestling.
It turns out the real Good Place is the one you keep with you in your heart for wrestling.
I don't know how I did it.
You sound disappointed in yourself.
I kind of am. Like, so like when I watched SmackDown, it was even worse, oddly enough. Like, Raw was bad. It was bad to watch. But then SmackDown was even weirder because the very first match, right? There's really no introduction to it. It's like, okay, here's a match. It's between I think her name was like Elizabeth Flair and then the fiery Irish woman from somewhere. I don't know. Like, I can't even remember their names.
Well, at least you were paying attention to this thing you were doing instead of watching The Good Place.
I was paying attention. They just never said them. So there's wrestling, but they go on to explain like how these two have like a huge beef with each other because there was a big match on the last pay-per-view and the one cheated to retain the title and blah 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 blah. And I'm watching this wrestling match and like it's not great. Like there's some wrestling matches where you watch it and it's like, oh, okay, these guys are really good at what they do, and they are very good at making this look as real as possible.
Right.
Say what you will about wrestling, like some of these guys are incredibly talented at what they do.
Yeah, no, I can get that. The physicality of it requires training and proficiency, right. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. And these two were not. Like you can see how some of these moves went terribly wrong. Like they weren't on the same page about what they were doing, and one's just sort of reacting.
That's the best kind.
Like, oh, I was supposed to be slingshotted into the ropes. Oh no! And they're like waving their arm.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why the only talent they've got. Maybe that's why the only talent they've got are people who are famous but way too old to be doing it, and people who have no clue what they're doing.
Right. And so I'm watching this, and I'm like, these two are great. But apparently the plot line is supposed to be like these two hate each other so much that even after the match is over, the fight's going to keep going. And obviously. So the match is over, the fight's still going, and they're dragging it out like onto the ramp.
And these were the moments. These were the moments where the kids at school who thought it was real were confusing to me. Like, right. Do you only remember the bit where the match was over, but they carried on fighting and there were no consequences for that? Yeah, it's because they just hate each other so much. But that's not how sports work. Except hockey.
Right. So they keep on fighting up the little entrance ramp thing that everyone walks down to get to the ring. And
wouldn't it be great if the entrance music just started playing as they fought onto it? Like it was sound activated. Sorry, carry on.
So they're going down until one of them tackles the other one through the LED monitor board. Right. And the thing just breaks apart and they go piling through it. And then that's when they make it out to be this huge deal, right? Immediately all these training individuals and medics and stuff come rushing out to start, oh God, something's gone wrong, blah, blah, blah. And everyone's panicking and even the announcer's like, "Oh, this has gotten very out of hand," and and they're giving this whole thing, and like they finally pull one off the other out of the wreckage, and she's like, she's like screaming, and there's like blood coming down her arm and stuff. I'm like, what? Like, is because like I know things go wrong in wrestling. Like I remember there was a very famous like I don't want to say event, but thing that happened where a wrestler died because of a malfunction of a stunt.
Right.
And like plummeted like 60 feet from the ceiling of the auditorium to his death. And so I'm like, oh shit, is this like one of those situations where like something actually went wrong? Like, oh, okay.
Things are getting interesting.
Yeah, I'm like, huh, okay. Well,
I mean, that's the only reason
strange.
anybody watches the ski jump, right?
Or like NASCAR.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would argue,
So,
I would argue the ski slalom and the ski jumps are the best injuries in sports.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Or like the Super G skiing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look too painful, but it's always dramatic.
Right. So I'm like, okay, wow, this is actually pretty interesting. And then like 5 minutes after that whole thing's like situated and they've gotten these people cleared out of the area, they make this announcement where it's like, and now it's been confirmed that because of the hatred that these two have shown each other, they'll be facing off again at next week's pay-per-view. I'm like, wait, hold on. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, they faked it going wrong? like they constructed the broken illusion of their own show to recreate the illusion. It's like, what?
That's great. I mean, it's terrible, but it's great.
Right. It's like, yeah, because like there was a legit moment I'm watching. I'm like, oh wow, okay, no, this went wrong. Like, oh shit, and like there was legit blood. Like it looked like blood. I mean, it could have easily been fake blood, of course, but
was there a point?
Like, huh, wow.
Was there a point where you could have seen that they could have applied like fake blood? Like was it?
Oh yeah.
Was it very viable that it could have been that, or was it more? Did it look real?
It looked real enough in the moment.
Right.
You know?
Looking back now, would you say it looked real? Now you've had time to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, because like it wasn't like it was like smeared or nothing. Like it just kind of looked like it was there. So
do you think maybe it could be a combination of the two?
It could have.
That was a setup, but it still went like a little bit wrong.
Yeah, I think that could be a possibility. Because like the nature of it, like they like I fully believe now that okay, this was of course designed. They were supposed to go through this LED board at this exact spot because it broke away beautifully, right? Like nothing is ever broken in such a perfect manner ever,
right?
But you can still see that there's actual metal and edges there.
Right.
Like this is actually like still legit real equipment that they have just designed to break away. Because until the person tackled the other one through, it was still operating, right? There's still like a light display there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds like quite a stunt, actually.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it wasn't like it was turned off and then they went through it. This was still like going, and then it happened.
That must have been quite a special effect.
Yeah.
Of
like
course,
I said, there's
the way wrestling shows are done, there's no necessity that actually had to have been as live as it looked as well. It could have been edited inserts and things like that. You know, the trickery extends to stuff like that, you know?
Sure.
It's just interesting.
Yeah, because like
the practicality
you hear
of
about
it
some
curious.
horrible stories from people who have been at wrestling events where they can't necessarily hide everything to the live audience.
Right.
There was one where someone was telling me that they went there and there was a wrestler named what was it, like the Big Show, right? And his whole gimmick is that this dude's like over 7 feet tall and he's a massive, massive guy. And so apparently he had a match, and then after it was over, they're clearing it out, getting ready for the next one, and he just threw up right there in the middle of the stage. Just so I guess there's probably a lot of things that like.
I mean, I get nervous after every match.
It's a weird thing. I don't know why, but I'm good beforehand, but afterwards, whoo.
No, that's Ric Flair.
Yeah. It's just a weird thing. Like I guess if you are at the point where you are paying amounts of money to see this stuff live, you must be the kind of person who has accepted it, right? Like,
right, and your own lack of self-worth within that.
Although, so this happened later on in SmackDown, right? So it's the last match of the night, and it's this big fight. They're qualifying for the first ever Wrestling World Cup, or I don't know, some bullshit. And so whoever wins this match, is going on to the pay-per-view that's going to be held in Saudi Arabia, oddly enough.
Yeah, I hear that's quite controversial at the moment. Given everything that's going on with Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm. But they're still promoting it like crazy, so.
Which is strange, because are the female wrestlers going to have to wear head coverings and things, like people who go to Saudi Arabia have to? Do you know what I mean? So
here's the thing. I don't believe any of the female wrestlers are going to go, because they've been talking about this, it's called the Crown Jewel, right? The WWE Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia. That's the name of the event.
Right.
But they're also announcing the WWE Evolution event, which is another pay-per-view that's all women. That's happening not at the same time, but like a weekend afterwards.
So are they just going to manufacture it so that no women wrestlers win or get through? If you know what I mean?
Well, like yeah, I mean, they're like none of the matches involve women for the qualifying event.
Right.
Like,
I mean, they don't cross-gender wrestle anyway, do they? Really, for the most part.
I don't think so. I think maybe they do every now and then, but I think they're very, very hesitant about. If there is, this is going to be kind of weird. Like I remember hearing, the guys on Giant Bomb talk about this, but every instance of a man and woman being in a wrestling match together, it's a case of the woman just beating the living crap out of the guy, right? They are never going to show it the other way.
No, I mean,
because
that makes sense,
right? But so I think that's how they're going to try to get around it, because apparently because when I was watching wrestling as a kid, the female wrestling was not really a big draw, right? There were women wrestlers, and but it was all very cheesy.
Right.
It was definitely played up more for the sex appeal of it, right? Of, ooh, look at these two half-naked women wrestle around with each other. It's gotten way more popular, I guess, as like a more legitimate side of the wrestling. So I guess to get around the whole fact that they're probably not going to bring any female wrestlers with them to Saudi Arabia, they're just going to have their own pay-per-view event.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, that was so okay. Anyways, what I was saying is this last match, right? And the bad guy wins, right? I think they call them heels.
Yeah.
That's the term.
Yeah, it's the villain in a wrestling match, the heel.
Right. He won. Right. Now, while I'm watching it, if you look in the background, right, in the front row, there's this one kid who is fucking pissed, right? He's like, no. He's like slamming on like the little like barrier in front of him. He's just like, no. I'm like, damn. Like,
kid likes his wrestling.
It's like, he does not like Randy Orton. Holy shit. Like, it's just like, oh, okay. All right.
Sinister Minister says, I thought Andy Kaufman ruined man-woman wrestling. That's true.
Sure. Excuse me.
It's all fake anyway. Who cares? Who cares?
But no, I'd like. I think I might. Excuse me, God. Sorry. Allergy season. But I think I might watch one more. Right.
Like, this is gonna happen every time you sit down to watch The Good Place, isn't it? Deliberately, out of spite.
It's now just a Pavlovian response. But I think I'm gonna watch one more week, right? Just to see, right?
6 weeks from now, you're watching Those on Biscuits, the internet's premier wrestling show. What do you want to do today, Owen? I don't care. Kill me.
I was hoping we could talk about, Daredevil. Nope, we're talking about
SmackDown versus Raw. Yeah. Whatever happened to Doink and Dink?
I think they died. I'm not gonna lie.
Together in each other's arms.
I love you, Doink. I love you, Dink.
Subject to a black and white portrait, like an artsy black and white portrait of them dying in a clinic in Switzerland together.
Yeah.
There we go.
In Switzerland.
Because that's where you can get like the Dignitas clinics and stuff, Or is it Sweden? Maybe it's Sweden.
I don't know.
I've checked. He is still alive. Doink the Clown.
Oh.
Or one of the Doinks. Professional wrestling character who first appeared in the World Wrestling Federation in 1982. He is a clown, or evil clown, wearing traditional clown makeup, or a mask decorated to resemble such, and brightly colored clothes. Originally portrayed by professional wrestler Matt Osborne, Doink has since been portrayed by many other wrestlers boasting that... Okay, let's see if Matt Osborne's still alive. Oh no, he died in 2013. But he was the first wrestler to portray Doink the Clown. Makes sense.
Gotcha.
Doesn't look like Dink is as famous. I remember them being very much a two-pair, right?
I only remember them as characters from that game, right?
Which game?
Midway did a wrestling game where they included like special moves and like fatalities.
Oh, what did you do?
Yeah. I remember Doink being there. Like, he would pull out like a giant hammer and just like
Fair enough.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my wrestling experience. I don't know. Like, it's hard. It's hard for me to be like super down on it because like I kind of went in. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be funny. Like this is gonna be really funny. And I can't lie. Like there was, like I was entertained at least. Like I wasn't like committed to it. I never thought that it was like well made. But I'm like, this is actually kind of fun. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's like it's like playing a shitty video game, where you like, it's not good, but I got to spend 3 hours on it.
No, I mean, it sounds fascinating. I have nothing to contribute to this conversation.
Well, why don't you move on to another topic that you want to talk about? I'm going to go blow my nose, honestly.
Oh, great. Cool. Let's have a blow-by-blow. Sorry. That's a terrible joke. Hello, everybody. John's off to blow his nose. I don't actually have much else to talk about, because we already did kind of a show today where we talked about things. So John might as well actually carry on talking about his wrestling. I'm not going to be a very useful person today. I've sort of forgotten what I was thinking of before we came in. I don't know. I'm not like loaded with topics at the moment, but I have been watching some TV. I've been very, 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 very much engrossed in the big dramas. The Better Call Saul. We talked about Iron Fist a little bit at the beginning of the show, and yeah. Other than that,
okay, I'm back.
Yeah, welcome back. I don't have anything to talk about, to be honest, John. I'm kind of low on topics a little bit.
You're killing me, man.
I'm sorry. So,
all right. Well, I did start playing another video game.
Oh, yeah? Tiny Bit Circus is Doctor Who. Well, Doctor Who started, yes. We're 2 episodes into Doctor Who, and the second episode wasn't bad.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us about it.
It picks up from the first episode. And, no, it's interesting. I will say it had a good, well-written script, even if the episode's plot wasn't hugely well developed. It was very character driven. It was very much the second episode in a story, picking up with the Doctor going forward a little bit. I'm often of the opinion that the second episode in a season of Doctor Who's usually rubbish. they just, it's not the highlight of the season, very, very rarely. And for so many years they've been introducing either a new character or a new Doctor or something like that. And it does have a bit of a... it did have a bit of a vibe of not really necessarily feeling as strong as the first episode. I will say, they don't film these in order, and I don't feel like she felt as strong in the role as she did last week. But you gotta give these things time too, to kind of gel. But I still liked it. The writing still feels stronger on a scene-by-scene basis, even if I don't think the episode was as strong as last week's, I would probably say. That's my feeling with it. I don't want to go into too much detail because obviously it's only been out. The long and short of it was the Doctor was trying to find her TARDIS and tracked it down to an alien planet where two competing people were trying to compete in the last phase of a race. A race across the galaxy, and it turned out the finish line was where the Doctor believed the TARDIS to be, so they came along and discovered things about the planet upon which the race was set. But it was sort of divided between 2 plots, like 1, we're on a hostile planet and we've got to get somewhere, and 2, these people are having this race. And I will say that thinking on the episode, neither of those plots actually came through as strongly as, like, if you'd asked me what the plot of this episode would be, the plot would be, it's the new Doctor's second episode. That was more the story, if you know what I mean. It was more about building tone and giving the characters scenes than it was about the actual plot. And it doesn't feel as plot-driven as it often has been, I guess. So it was good. I'm still liking the show. I think the tone of the show good, and I think the overall style of the writing is very good. I don't think it was it wouldn't make my top 10 episodes, Mm-hmm. It was a very average plot.
Well, okay, so from your perception of it, do you think we are getting back to Monster of the Week style, or are you starting to see seeds of a longer plot thread? So
the plot in this episode was basically self-contained, aside from the fact that the previous episode led into it.
Okay.
However, they do make a connection between the threat in this episode and the threat in the last one, but it was very indirect, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It wasn't directly led on narratively. It was more a case of the people we encounter in this one were connected to who we encountered last time. So I think that's what they're doing with it a little bit. I actually think it falls more into the area of like world building, if you know what I mean. They're trying to make it feel like it was a more coherent universe. And I will say one of the things that's been missing under Stephen Moffat's tenure is all the characters in this episode who aren't from Earth, who aren't like the Doctor and the companions. They're actually written in such a way that they feel like they come from a place that exists with a past, and they're not just there. Do you know what I mean? Which is something I think Moffat kind of really got wrong. He often wrote supporting characters who were just there because the plot would just put him there, and you never get him talk about things like, this is my life, this is my motivation, this is my... They were real people with their own thoughts and feelings and needs and stories to it, and I thought that was good, basically. So yeah, it felt more like a Russell T Davies era episode than a Moffat episode, I would think. But
that's cool.
Chris Chibnall, who's the showrunner now, has said that there will be no... there is no heavy plot arc, and there will be no returning monsters this year. So, yeah, if he sticks to it, good. We need a year of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point we'll see a Dalek in some context.
Oh, sure.
But that's like the lightsaber in Rogue One. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, there's two ways to like bring back the Daleks, right? And it's either put them in a situation where they are very unexpected.
Right.
The weird Daleks from the Matt Smith, where they're like the Power Rangers, right? You know, they're all color coded and shit.
See, I like the first half of that episode where they're just walking around in World War II pretending to be helping. I don't much like the second half.
Or you make them the big bad at the end of the season,
which I think worked in season 1. The difficulty with the Daleks is they're a little bit like we always say about Batman, how he's written so prominently because he's so famous, you know? They're always, because they're the most popular classic Doctor Who villain, they're always written too much as his ultimate nemesis enemy. So they don't lead the plots in a way that's kind of sensible for them to be in that context. I've often said if I was writing a Dalek story, there's a story in the 1960s called The Dalek Invasion of Earth, and it's set during a time period where the Doctor arrives on Earth in the future, and the Daleks are there, and they've just taken over everything. He thinks he's fighting an invasion, but they're already there, and they've been there for months, and they control the planet. And their ultimate goal is to mine out the core of the Earth and fly the Earth around like a little spaceship, which is funny.
It's awesome.
But I always thought it would be really cool to do a Dalek episode where the Daleks weren't the main threat, right? The Doctor materializes and he lands in the 1960s. Well, lands during that story, right? Lands during the Dalek invasion of Earth, and finds that in a prison camp, a different alien's hiding out and doesn't want to be detected by the Daleks, and has murdered someone, right? And it's like a murder mystery, and the Daleks are in it, but they're not the threat, you know? And the Doctor has to explain to the companions, like, why aren't we fighting the Daleks? And the Doctor's like, well, okay, so in about 6 months, I'm going to land, and I'm going to fight the Daleks. So if I interfere now, I could actually stop myself from fixing it later, so I'm not going to do that, and I'll change my own history, so I can't do that. But while we're here, this is also going on, and we could look at that. I always think that would be a good way to do the Daleks, where they're an authority, and not necessarily looking for the Doctor, and something else is happening. You know what I mean? That's how I'd like to see him used more. Because you can have them in there. They can be a threat, but they're just not your main plot, you know?
Yeah, it'd be kind of interesting, like, to see him have to, oddly enough, interact with the Daleks the same way that he interacts with, like, local police officers, you know, when
Right.
he shows up.
Right, it's almost like a French Resistance war movie where the French Resistance got their thing they're going on and they're fighting something going on that the Germans don't really know about, but the Germans are there, you know?
Right. Well, this is actually kind of an interesting topic to bring up because I haven't looked too much into it because my message settings were already set.
Right.
But Lord Chaos in chat says, if you need a topic, I posted something in the TM. PS4 exploit that locks consoles. So what's this all about?
So basically, what it seems to be is, oh, hello to
Yeah,
Loose
hello,
Corner.
Loose
How you doing? Someone has discovered, and I do wonder because this hasn't been discovered sooner. I do wonder if this has come as a result of the name change thing they've just put in.
Right.
But someone's basically discovered that if you send someone a message
And hello, Chicken Lisa.
over the PlayStation Network, and it contains a certain combination of characters, I don't know which, because I also didn't look into it that much because my messages are also set to
down
private.
PS4.
Xbox, go to sleep. If you send someone a message that contains a certain amount of characters, and you don't even have to open the message because if your PlayStation reads it as a notification, it basically crashes your PlayStation and you have to do a factory reset to get out of it. And people are now sending it to each other. Like I saw one case of someone who'd been sent it by someone who immediately sent a message afterwards saying, "Lol, it's okay, just do a factory reset," you know? So it's mostly a prank, but yeah, there have been some cases of people having their PS4s completely bricked by it. But yeah, so by the sounds of it, it's basically just an issue where you can send something in a message that the PlayStation 4 can't itself process when it receives, to the point where it wrecks the whole console.
It's so weird. Like that sounds so like 90s computer.
Oh, it says you can
virus.
delete the message via an app, then go into safe mode. You don't have to reset. I've heard that there are cases where that doesn't work if your notifications, for example, have already loaded it as a notification and it's still in your notifications. But yeah, that's basically the story as far as I understand it. But yeah, you're right. It's very strange.
Well, it's you know, it's like I mean, okay, you know what it actually sounds like to me? It sounds like the like Cold War era espionage thing where like, oh, I'm going to send this series of numbers to a person, is going to activate them. Except in this instance, it's the opposite, you know?
There was an interesting thing a few years ago where a radio station had this emergency broadcast system set up that was basically like, this is the emergency broadcast system. If you are hearing this, nuclear bombs have begun to fall. Proceed to your nearest shelter, you know? And they had it locked behind a code word, and they wanted the code word to be something nobody would ever say. So they picked the word heffalump from Winnie the Pooh.
Oh,
and then
no.
Years later, the radio station changes formats and they move on and they don't disconnect this old security system. And one day they're doing like a book at bedtime program, and it's Winnie the Pooh. So halfway through the children's bedtime broadcast, the radio station just starts going, nuclear bombs have begun falling off the coast of... Get to your nearest fallout shelter.
It also reminds me of... So, I heard about this, okay? I've never gone on to confirm or deny that this is a real thing. I should. But...
Hello to Chicken Lisa, by the way. Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, Chicken Lisa says, I just finished my homework and now I'm really, really tired. It's 12:40 a.m. So I'm about to go to bed. But I'm happy I finished. Yeah. Do your homework, kids. But, so... I should look into it to see if it's real. But it's hoping that it's real, and I don't want to... I don't want it to turn out to be fake.
If I know it's not real, should I just not say it, confirm it?
I don't care.
All that's saying it, and then no, well.
Yeah, but so like during the Cold War, there's these things that popped up, and you can still actually tune into them. There's websites that just have lists of them. Is these number stations, right?
Right.
And they're on both sides, both Russian and American, or NATO, I guess. Where they're there's a series of numbers. Like every couple hours or so, they'll just read off. Like, I mean, it's automated, I imagine, but they read off a certain amount of numbers, and no one's quite sure what they were used for. But there's one in particular that has people kind of tweaked out, and it's one that's like based right outside of Moscow or the Kremlin, right? And its pattern is way different. And when asked about it, most Kremlin officials basically said, we don't really know what this is either. Like this was set up, like, I think they've gone on to say like this was set up by like a different group that kind of acted with autonomy from the Kremlin and all this sort of stuff. And so people are kind of convinced that this is basically the dead man switch.
Because they haven't turned it off. They're all too frightened to disable it.
Right. They're kind of convinced that this thing was set up, designed that, like, okay, if, you know, the Kremlin is attacked and blown to smithereens or whatever, and this number station stops, it launches the nukes, you know? So, and like what I think like gives like credence to this, like I said, it could be completely fake. I don't even remember where I heard this from.
Turns out it's actually just the phone number for the Chinese laundry.
Stop calling!
Or we'll send the nukes!
But it's
explodes over New York, and it's just dirty socks and really starched shirts.
It's a dirty bomb.
just starched shirts falling and pointing people in the eye. Ah! Ah!
Oh, dude, so crisp. My whites have never been whiter. Ah! It's a fresh spring scent.
Thus solves the mystery of the number stations.
Right. But like, I think what gives it, like, what people kind of latch on to is when Russia themselves go, well, we don't know. Like,
yeah. Do
like,
you want to turn it off
it off
and take responsibility?
Yeah. It's kind of waiting, like, I don't want to do it. You want to do it? I don't want to do it.
There is that story of that guy who, during the
guy
Cold
who,
War,
like saved the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the muscles fired and he didn't send them. So have you heard this? Have you heard the story of the first ever telecom scam? I was reading about this the other day. It was really great. Have you heard about this? So there used to be a thing called an optical telecom. And what it was a way of sending messages over long distances. Before we had electronics that could do it. Before we had.
Right.
And the way they used to work was they had semaphore towers. And these were these towers that could fold into certain shapes.
Mm-hmm.
So they look a little bit like windmills, but they're like they have fold out platforms that form into like Z shapes in different orientations. Because you know what semaphore is, right? With the flags, they did semaphore shapes. And what they would do is they'd be spaced at distances directly viewing each other apart. They would always be watching the other tower, and then they would one tower would send a shape, and then the tower after it would lock in. And once it had locked in, the tower before would send the next shape. And it would go down the line, sending letters down the line, right?
Sure.
Now, in those days, if you wanted to play the stock market, you had to, and you were in a different country, or you were further away from one of the stock markets. This was in France at the time. Getting information from one end of the country to the other could make the difference between you making millions. You know, it could get you to really outperform the competition, but there were no telegrams in those days. There were only these towers, and these towers were run by the government in France, and you couldn't send a message by choice. But these
Right.
two guys figured out certain codes. They were two businessmen, and they basically figured out a good way to use it. They would just bribe the operators. So so what they did was they bribed a guy in a tower sort of halfway down, and they couldn't get it any closer than that because every so often there'd be a correction tower where they would look and correct the signals. What they would do was they would basically
Hello, Hawks, by the way.
at a certain time of day, they would deliberately send the wrong letter and then a correction signal. So if you sent the wrong signal, you could correct and then say, okay, that last character was wrong. It was actually this. And once those hit the correction towers where it was the job of the guys to transcribe the messages, they would just delete the wrong ones. So what they did was they bribed people at certain times a day to actually insert incorrect characters in that they would know what that meant, even if they couldn't use them officially, and then correct them, and they would see the corrections and know that was for them. And then there would end up being no written record of what was sent because the people whose job it was to write down the messages and keep the logs didn't record the incorrect characters. They only recorded the messages that was correct. And they used that to... It wasn't as fast as like an actual telecom system, but it was very, very fast. The fastest way to send messages across the country at the time. So they ended up making a huge killing in the stock market because they were finding out what the market was doing and buying and selling before anyone at the other end of the country could get there because they didn't have access to this telecom system. And they didn't get caught until years later when one of the operators they bribed confessed on his deathbed. And so they got charged with bribery, but there were no laws to actually to cover what they'd done at the time. But basically, they were basically trading on the stock market using information nobody else in their part of the country could get at the time they were doing by intercepting this semaphore network.
You know, like all I can think about when you tell me this is like technology's gotten really boring.
Right.
You know? like don't get me wrong. Like I love technology, and without it, there's no way we could be doing this show or anything like that.
We could do it with semaphore towers if you want, John. If that's what you're saying.
Welcome to our 8-hour-long Those Aren't Biscuits episode. We managed to get out, and we're live. But like, you hear about all the kind of cool stuff that people did with technology back then, like very subversive things. I always think about the guy who, what was it? He hacked into like the Chicago Public Access channel and just broadcasted this character named Max Headroom.
Yeah, who was a TV character.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
good
who was
show.
a real character, but
good show, Max Headroom.
Yeah, but broadcasted, but it had him saying like some really kind of weird shit.
Yeah.
And then like at the time, to do this would have required like a lot of like tech. It wasn't just like, oh, I did it with my cell phone. It would have required like access to like a lot of computers.
Right.
But no one knows. No one can figure it out. Same thing. Like I always think I can never remember the name of the band, but there is a band who, in one of their songs has like a 15-second long noise. Right? It's just noise. But someone figured out that if you play that album into a modem, it kicks out text. And so the band had embedded this message into their album using, audio. And it's interesting stuff to me. Like,
right.
Like to me, that's really kind of cool. Like the number stations. That's interesting. Like the weird stuff that people used to do with like shortwave radios or ham radios. And
Right, and these days ham radio is very, very formalized and boring.
Right. Yeah, you need like a license to do it, and there's no like hidden bands, right?
Right.
That used to be that used to be like the dark web, right? These
Right.
people would connect with ham radio on unmonitored frequencies, and but yeah,
Right. Well, the guy who wrote what's that movie about the guy who the guy gets the satellite dish and starts seeing horrific things through the scrambled channels at the far end of the frequency. What's that film called? Do you know what I mean?
Lawnmower Man.
No, that's not even about that. That's about VR. Anyway, but the guy who directed it, he used to do that. He used to have a satellite dish and he used to browse looking for the weird stuff. He was like, and part of it was the fear of not knowing if you were going to see something like illegal and horrific, or do you know what I mean, or just like weird comedy that someone had made.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, like with like public access channels, like technically those all still exist, but they're actually very hard to access. Like at least in the U.S., I think like by law they still have to have public access channels. But they're never listed. Like, you have to go through some loops to get onto them.
Right.
But if you do, there is some crazy shit on public access channels, or at least there was. Like I remember, back in the day, me and my buddy, he figured out how to get the public access channel, and because we had a cable service like Charter Cable, we could access multiple public access, not just our local one, but you could, because there's no restriction on like antenna frequencies or anything like that. Like, so, it was digital. So you could essentially access whatever they posted. And we were watching something, I think, out of like Kansas, where it was just this old lady reading the personal ads out of the newspaper while also like baking. So she's just there in the studio with this little kitchen set up, right? It wasn't even like a full kitchen. It was like this like hot plate and like a little like countertop oven sort of thing, like toaster oven.
Oh, good.
And so she's just mixing stuff, and then she's like, okay, well, in this Sunday's paper we have lonely in Topeka looks for a tall brunette, 25 to 35, preferably green eyes, and without webbed toes, just it's this weird shit. And it was hypnotic. It was like, huh. Like, I mean, like, public access was Twitch before Twitch.
Right.
It was just these people like, well, by law, I have access to this TV station because it's public access. Like, they have to, like, within boundaries, of course. I can go in, pay my due, set up a time, and they give me access to the TV station. And so it's just whatever the fuck the person wants to do. And the funny thing is, because of the weird loops that you would have to go through, one, to get access to the channel, like, and then to pay, because I think there was a fee you had to pay.
Right.
Like, you knew these people were like way into it, right? Like, this wasn't just something like on a whim, like, oh, well, I feel like doing this today. Like, no, this required like considerable effort to put this out.
I'd love to do a show like that. We don't really have public access here, but I'd love to just try and do it. Try and do something good. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
How many people do you think set out to do something good and achieve it?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I know there was two guys in Aurora, Illinois, who had a pretty successful.
We're here looking at Wayne's basement, but that's not Wayne's basement.
It's really sad when people sell out, you know?
It's like people just do things for money. That's just sad. Stop it! I'm getting a headache. Ah, tiny, little, yellow. That movie's so good.
Yeah.
My favorite, it's such a weird moment, but it's when God's like, "Hey, Mr. Donut Man, who's trying to kill you? I don't know, but they better not." Ah!
Sinister Mission says, I did some work at the local access channel. Well, tell us how was that? Like, was any weird stuff happen? Did you do I have that all wrong? Because like I said, I don't know a lot about it, but from what I understood, that like as like public access meant that anyone could do it if they wanted to.
I'm guessing YouTube's replaced a lot of it.
Oh yeah.
Like when I was very into. Sorry, carry on.
I like the YouTube videos of old public access.
Yeah, me too. We don't have public access in that same way here, so I kind of find it compelling. When I was very into online atheism and stuff, there's a public access show in Austin, Texas called, well, it used to be a public access show called The Atheist Experience. It was an atheist call-in show. And they were actually really good because they just had a call-in show where the job was to just answer people. They had an atheist social group and they just called and talked about like apologetics and stuff. And that was a really good show. They had some good guys on there, but for every show like that, there seems to be like the call-in psychic, you know? Or today we're debating the big issues, and they just get people on who know nothing about anything to.
So Sinister Mission says, I control the soundboard for a call-in variety show. A call-in variety show? How does that work? Like,
it was very amateur, he says.
My name's Chad. You can't see me because I'm calling in, but I'm juggling a poodle.
I'm doing the can.
A chainsaw. Yeah, and doing the can.
Listen. Yeah. Fido. You hate to hear it.
Mrs. Pufflebottom.
Mrs. Pufflebottom. Of course.
It's a poodle. Yeah.
I had a poodle. It wasn't called Mrs. Pufflebottom.
We've heard about your poodle today. We're not getting back on the pet situation.
Hey, I loved him. Don't you be giving me sass about my poodle. He was a great dog.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm actually really kind of interested about that. Like, how does a call-in variety show work? Like, I guess
it's more like it's a call-in show where people talk about whatever, you know.
Okay,
like,
because
whatever.
A variety show is like a talent show, you know.
Yeah, but still, it could be a variety of calls.
I guess so. It could be like a call-in, talk about whatever show.
Right. Like, whatever. No.
Yeah, I'm calling in. This is Bill coming out of West Street. Whatever, man. Take my answer off the air.
Don't you love it when you see polls about something on TV shows, though, and it's like, what do you feel about something like this? Calls cost, 35 pence a minute. And so far the results are 30% yes, 20% no, and 50% I don't know. Like, who's the guy who's like, oh, I'm going to call and give my opinion on this? Waits like 30 minutes to get through. I don't know.
See, Sinister Miss just clarifies, says the variety talent was on the show, then people would call in. It was very stupid.
You suck. Bring on the dancing girls.
Bring back the poodle juggler. So, See him kill another dog on stage. It'd be great.
Sorry, the poodle juggler is still going through a grief session at the moment.
This pan over off stage. Yeah, the poodle.
Why didn't we practice first? It looked easy.
They said it was supposed to be for amateurs. I thought if I practiced, that wouldn't count.
The puppy told me she was trained.
I figured if she was trained for a house, she's good enough for a studio. That's what the breeder said.
And then afterwards, look, I get it. I killed a dog. I cut off my toe. But imagine if I had, succeeded with no training. What would you have said then?
It'd be pretty awesome, right?
Right? It would be worth it, right?
Sinister Mistress said someone played the spoons.
Woo!
That's impressive.
Really?
Do you know how to play the spoons? That seems like one of the most complicated things to do.
Really?
Look it up. Look up expert spoon playing. Can you tell me how they do that? I can't figure it out.
They hold the spoons, two next to each other, and then they whack them.
Some bands, but mostly bluegrass. Not bluegrass bands.
No, they don't count. Just bluegrass.
just long drawn out shots of waving fields of bluegrass.
Right. And blue waffles.
Ugh. Blue waffles as far as the eye can see.
That would be a really horrible misunderstanding, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, no, I'm in a band. I play the banjo. I'm in one of those blue waffle bands. What? I don't know what that is. I'll look it up. Hmm? Daddy, no!
The minister says spoons are stupid. Not
until you're trying to eat Cheerios.
Right, yeah, you eat soup with a banjo.
No, you can hear is just. No, Alan's eating Cheerios again. So play with your food. I'm looking at how to play the spoons now. I want to see if it's as complicated as you say. I feel like it's sort of just rhythmic chopstick use, basically.
I mean, I don't know how to do that either.
I'm on the WikiHow article and it says, musical instruments can be expensive and require a large time commitment, but with just 2 suitable spoons purchased from your local second-hand store, thrift store, or taken from your silverware drawer, you can soon be tapping out complex rhythms. The spoons are a classic folk instrument that have been used everywhere from the homestead to the concert hall, and with a little creativity, you could be adding rhythmic contribution to the music in your life with a set of spoons. I'm sorry. You could do this with any 2 things you bang together. This literally applies to any 2 objects you combine. Right? That you can hit one on the other, doesn't it?
I guess. But that's drums then, too, That's all percussion. You can break it down into...
I'm sorry, but is there anything I just said that wouldn't apply to 2 books? 2 DVD cases? 2,
But I'm
shoes.
saying, that's very dismissive of the entire percussion group.
Not so.
I bang this stick against this
because
hollowed out barrel.
No, I disagree.
Oh, no.
No, I disagree, right? Because with the drums, you're talking about, that is a very specific thing. It is a drum. It's designed purely for percussion. You have to have a skin. It's tightened. It's made to have a good resonant noise. You play some with pedals. There's different drums that have different noises and a combination. And yes, you could achieve a percussion and a rhythm with something that wasn't a drum, but a drum is something designed to make a nice, rich, full-bodied percussion sound, right? But if your selling point for the spoons is, hey, you can't afford any instruments, here is something where you can just pick them up anywhere around the house and make some lovely percussive noises. That applies to
So are you saying
any
that
two
because
objects.
they're cheap?
No, what I'm saying
are
is,
not able to become proficient at it?
no, what I'm saying is, if you want to learn to play an instrument and rack out some lovely percussion instruments, right? You can do it with any two things, rather if you're going to spoons. And they'll probably make a nicer percussion noise than clickety 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 spoons. They sound like shit. It doesn't sound pleasant. Go get 2 books.
To you?
Go tap a desk. No. All I'm saying is... All I'm saying is
because I don't like it, it's a stupid instrument.
No, I'm not saying that, right? I'm not actually even saying whether I like it or not, right? I don't, but that's fine. What I'm saying is that if your answer is, hey, can't afford an instrument, with just 2 spoons, you can tap out complex rhythms, right? All I'm saying is, that applies to a lot more than just 2 spoons. You can tap out complex rhythms. If you're not talking about buying an instrument and getting something that sounds lovely, well, why not just say, with your hand and a desk, you can tap out complex rhythms. With 2 books, you can tap out complex rhythms. With 1 spoon and a glass, you can tap out complex rhythms.
So is your issue with the WikiHow article?
My issue is, well, yeah, that description of the benefits of playing the spoons applies to any 2 objects you can find, so long as one of them isn't like a liquid or a gas. Do you know what I mean? It's a strange selling point to me to be like, why play the spoons? Well, if you can't afford an instrument, these are 2 things that you can bang together. That applies to anything.
Okay. I think the spoons are actually kind of interesting. I like the sound of the spoons.
Oh, you would. Is there a type of clown that plays the spoons? Why don't you tell us all about it?
You know, I bet you somewhere there's a Kiss song that has spoons in it.
It'll be the worst one. It'll be track 3 on Music from the Elder.
And I bet there is clowns who play the spoons.
Oh, I know. I think actually the percentage of clowns that play the spoons is probably higher than the average population. By quite some way. In fact, I bet clowns who don't play the spoons are in the minority.
I don't know. Have you ever been to West Virginia?
I bet there's an overlap between clowns who think they've wasted their lives, too.
And spoon players who wanted to become clowns.
Instead. Why did I spend so long playing the spoons?
I could have been a clown.
And then just like the 1% who just went and got office jobs and girlfriends.
But every once in a while it kind of sneaks out, you know. And yes, here is your French onion soup and your spoon. Someday in the morning I'll fly away, fly away in the morning. What?
Nothing, honey. And all the other spoon-playing clowns call the ones that got out Chad.
Haha! Chicken Lisa says, a feather isn't a gas or a liquid, but I think it'd be hard to play the feathers.
You haven't seen me play. I play a mean feather.
Gross.
Tiny Bit Secrets, have you ever seen those buskers who play like buckets and stuff? Some of them are so good. Like Stomp.
Right.
Yeah, still, I'm not opposed to the idea that I think people are misunderstanding me. I'm not saying everyday objects you find around the house can't be instruments that sound good. I'm saying that being like, hey, if you want to play an instrument,
the reason why
you can knock 2 spoons.
It's because no one gets why you're upset. Like,
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Making a selling point of spoons. Hey, you can knock 2 together and make a rhythm. Is dumb when you can do that with lots of things.
It's like, but someone has specifically looked up playing spoons to get to that article, right? So clearly, it's not
Where's
I
the
want
WikiHow
to go to this article about playing spoons so they can give me like other options.
Where is the
No, I want to play the spoons, and this fucking article's telling me to go play the pens. No, that's not how it works.
Where is the WikiHow article for playing 2 hubcaps you found in the street? Where's that article, John? It's what I want to play. The abandoned hubcaps. Where's that article? Where's my WikiHow article about playing
an established instrument?
Well, and the spoons is really
yes. The spoons have like
it's an established food eating implement that people with busy hands and no musical skill have corrupted. It's what it is.
Look, the reason why it's established is because look, Sinister Minister up there says someone played the spoons, and we instantly knew what he meant. It wasn't like, what? No, we knew what that was, Owen. So yes, the spoons are an established instrument.
Well, if he'd said played the hubcaps, I would also know what he meant.
Because you're a lunatic.
But you could play anything. It's not a selling point of spoons that you can hit them together. That's not special. That's not a special property of the spoon.
Oh my god. Are you in the pocket of Big Fork? Like, there's nothing special about spoons. No, fork.
I'm working for Spoon Guard. Remember that video? Spoon Guard. You remember that video? It was good. From rathergood.com. This man was exposed to spoons for 20 minutes. And they cut to a guy who'd been like, picture of him modified to look like a fish. Till he used Spoon Guard. It was a very strange video back in the day.
Did you ever see that one video where this summer, this man gets slowly beaten to death with a spoon?
No.
It's like a 15-minute long video of this guy just following this other guy around and just hitting him lightly on the back of the head with a spoon.
Fair enough.
It's like, what the? The internet used to be weird.
I miss the weird internet. I mean, not a lot, but sometimes I get like a pang of nostalgia for the strange internet.
Like, there's times where I kind of wish I came across like an old like GeoSites website, you know, where it's just like one picture at the very top, a glittery background, and just like a list of links to other more better websites.
It's called the unofficial David Duchovny fan page, and it has only one page that just lists David Duchovny was in the X-Files.
It's like a PowerPoint, you know?
Right. Yeah,
I miss that. But I got nothing to talk about anymore.
You boring old man.
Yeah.
Should we get out of here?
Yeah, let's get out of here.
We can go watch some more Raw.
You know it. I got some raw chicken, some raw pork, some raw beef, sushi.
He's going to give his digestive system a smackdown.
Yeah, that toilet is gonna get the people's elbow.
That just makes you sound like Dharma, to be honest.
Like who?
Like Dharma.
Like from Dharma and Greg?
No, like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, Dahmer.
Right.
I got to hear Dharma. I'm like the Hindu concept of
yes
of rebirth. Like,
well, if you take it that way, the crimes of Jeffrey Dahmer make much more sense.
Do they?
Right, he was just easing them on to his next life, you know?
Well, no, he's just like, well, I've decided to start practicing Hindu, and I can't eat cows anymore. I got no other options. There's literally like, Jeff, there's literally hundreds of other options. Mm-mm.
None quite so delicious. It's finger licking good. Here, lick these fingers. Mm. Sorry, I feel quite bad about that one.
Oh my god, I just took a drink of water, fucker. But yeah, let's get out of here.
Yeah, see
Thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been another episode of Those Aren't Biscuits. I've been one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadet. With me, as always, has been Owen Adams. Owen, where can they find you?
Go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams, where I will not be playing the spoons.
Yet.
But I will be juggling a chainsaw and a poodle. Sorry, no, cancel that. Give him time.
And you can find me on Twitter at John C Person. That's JON the letter C person. Or you can just follow this channel right here, Not Biscuits. That's where I put all my content. Where I may just post a picture or a video of me playing the spoons out of spite.
I just picture you there angrily playing your spite spoons. Yeah, yeah. Can you hear that? Click, 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 click,
It's
click,
the
click, click,
heavy
click,
metal
click.
of spoons.
Yeah. Suck it, Owen. Click, 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 click.
It's like I have the double bass pedal with spoons.
It's like two giant serving spoons. Till your leg is bruised and raw. Blood seeping through your cargo pants.
I don't have cargo pants.
I was trying to think of a thick type of pants. It's collecting in the pocket.
Your
front.
burlap pants.
Just bleeding and angry. And then the next week it's Mr. Cadet. I don't know what you've been doing to that leg, but it's broken in 3 places. The spoons!
I do it for my art. All right, then. Until next time.
Bye, guys.
Have a good one.